Pretty much all of us have been taught by white people, who've 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 been taught by white people, taught by white people, using textbooks written for, about white people. You pretty much only ever had white teachers. So if you're white, you were relentlessly reflected at the front of the room, and you could get through graduate school without having a teacher of color, right? Or maybe one, maybe two. And if you're a person of color, rarely, if ever, did you see yourself reflected at the front of the room. So that teaching force, which is upwards of 93% white across the nation, and yet these teachers are now in the position to decide who's smart, who belongs where, who should be punished for what. And we see this empirically in the outcomes of tracking, special ed referrals, punishment, expulsion, the school to prison pipeline.
She makes a good point, but I don't think a lot of people truly know what Robin DiAngelo is actually talking about until you look at the statistics. During the 2017-2018 school year, less than 1 in 10 teachers were either Black, Hispanic, or Asian American, and even fewer than 2% were American Indian, Pacific Islander, or Alaska Native. Just a fraction of the teachers are Black men.
All right, now y'all ready? Who's got attendance for me today?
One of my students during COVID, he goes, Mr. Young, I ain't trying to be racist or rude or anything, but you're my first Black teacher ever. And I kind of just was shocked that, but I also thought about it. I was like, wow, I've been in his shoes. So it makes sense, you know?
You remember having any Black teachers?
None African American.
We most certainly need more Black male teachers in these female-dominated spaces, because this adds another layer of inspiration, especially for Black male students. It has a big impact on their perception of leadership, self-confidence, and achievement.
If we live in a society where your skin colour doesn't matter in all aspects of life, then it would be very naive to believe that it's not going to matter in the school setting.
If I had more Black teachers out teaching me, it would definitely make a difference on my education.
We do need more Black teachers. Children should be able to see themselves in actually all the roles they see around them.
In the 2020-2021 school year, just 1.3% of the 3.8 million teachers in public schools were actually non-Hispanic Black men. Black women, on the other hand, made up 4.8% of all the teachers in public schools and about 6.5% of the general population. All in all, Black women and men make up 6.1% of all teachers in public schools and 12.6% of the American population. Black teachers tend to be more common in city schools than in rural areas or suburbs. How many of us actually think that we've been taught most of our lives by white folks, especially white women? What kind of impact does that have on us and our children? What can we change other than to add more Black educators? I'm not just talking about Black teachers, but diversity in general. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you are new, glad to have you here. Today we are going to discuss a particular topic that might trigger some of you. There's a lot to unpack here. Black teachers are better for Black students. First off, Black students deserve more Black teachers.
I wish that people knew just how important it was. So in my experience growing up, I actually didn't get my first teacher of color until I was in college.
I remember the first Black male teacher I had, the first Black teacher I had, period, was Mr. Mills. And I had him, was it sophomore? It was sophomore language arts that he taught.
When I was younger, I didn't think much about it. It was kind of the environment I always had from kindergarten through my senior year of high school. And then as soon as I got to college and I had that first teacher of color, I realized how impactful it was. It actually really shaped my future pathway. It shaped what I decided to study, what I decided to do with my life moving forward. I felt so much more comfortable in that classroom. I felt heard, I felt seen.
And I just remember feeling at ease when I came into his room. And I don't even know if I connected why at the time, but it just felt easy to be around him. There wasn't
It's important that Black students have Black teachers, counselors, principals, deans, etc. They need to have a role model, not just in the entertainment industry like rappers or celebrities, but in simple settings and relatable scenarios that they can look up to. You see, research shows that young kids have better problem solving and learning skills if their teacher has the same ethnicity. They need someone they can relate to, someone with the same cultural knowledge and similar experiences, mainly for Black and Latino children. Previous reports suggest that when a teacher shares the same ethnic background, older students are more likely to improve their academic achievements. But a more recent study found that this can also be useful for younger students. Experts took data from more than 18,000 U.S. children and analyzed the children's cognitive flexibility and working memory. They found that students had higher math and reading scores when their teachers shared their ethnic backgrounds. Another study found that Black students who had a Black teacher in early grades had much lower high school dropout rates. They also had lower rates of exclusionary discipline and just performed better overall. So, does that mean that Black teachers are better at teaching than white folks? Not necessarily. Every one of us knows a teacher who is really good at their job and someone who hates it. There are good and bad teachers in every school, regardless of the color of their skin. What Black teachers do differently is that they are a cultural building block. They have much higher expectations for their Black students than white teachers do, not just for the Black community, but for all students and all minorities. They value students' primary culture. They know where they are coming from and how to deal with their shortcomings. Whereas a white teacher is less likely to see a Black student as college material. There have been many cases where a teacher automatically assumes that his student is stupid just because they are poor. So they group up that student with the challenged or more difficult students. This is more than enough to set some students off track. Why? It all comes down to social conditioning. Look at it this way. If a Black man grew up in a poor inner city neighborhood and was raised in a single parent household, statistically speaking, he should be in jail, dead, or become the head of yet another single parent household. This is what the zip code says about Black men. But the zip code doesn't define us. It is not who we are. Black teachers have the ability to relate to Black students in a way no other teacher can. They can provide children with opportunities to grow their own talents and become productive members of society. Because this is how mainstream media wants people to think we are. It is how we are portrayed that shapes how we are seen. Every single time there is a racist incident, particularly one that involves the police, they will portray the Black person in question as a criminal. I mean, if a Black man is gunned down, which picture do you think they would use? Even in movies, Black actors have been constantly made to play the gangster, gang member, thug, or gangbanger. We've seen this time and time again. Amazing that this is the bar in Hollywood, and it is expected to stay that way. It is weak, misguided, and counterproductive. And it is not just in the media, it is everywhere. Because whenever we see a Black man or woman on TV who is all about family, education, and career, we go, huh? That was unexpected. He or she had a good life. Black educators are living proof for students that achievement is all about mindset. They understand what it's like to grow up in a community where the odds are stacked against them before these children even have the chance to show their worth or talents. Research proves that Black students who had one Black teacher by third grade were 7% more likely to finish high school and 13% more likely to go to college. Being taught by two Black teachers increased the likelihood of going to college by a staggering 32%. Black teachers recognize that every student is capable of excelling in their studies, whether they come from money or not. When schools don't prioritize hiring or keeping their Black teachers, they rob Black students of the benefits of having a same-race teacher. But to be more specific, Black teachers know the real history of the United States, not the one that has been bleached out of public schools. In many history books, you can see plenty of stories where white people are reflected as the heroes. They are the ones who reshaped the United States, made it this global powerhouse. Sure, all children know that slavery was bad and slaves had to work hard and were beaten. But it isn't until children go to a museum and see the remnants of this history in person that they realize how abstract the horrors of slavery really were before that. But the real American history is a lot darker than that. It seems like the impact of the word torture kind of faded over the years. In reality, the time of slavery was far, far worse than what is depicted in any textbook or history lesson. Yes, it may have been made in the best interest of the children, but this is the sort of thing that can create a rift between students and teachers. By consulting Black experts, history teachers, and other people with actual, real knowledge in the field, students can get valuable insight into the kind of history that needs to be shared. Black educators are important because they can disrupt the institutional inequalities that are specifically designed to widen the gap on a social, academic, and economic level between people of all minorities. They can leverage their personal background and knowledge to fix the botched education system that many students are faced with today. Difficulties for Black teachers. The problem is that most Black students will go through 13 years of public schooling without being taught by a black teacher. That's why many of these children do not achieve their full academic potential. Now, it is very difficult to recruit teachers from disadvantaged communities. There are often two reasons for that. One, they often had a bad experience in school and don't trust the education system. While growing up, they didn't see black teachers and often felt disrespected by the white teachers. So why would anyone go back into a system that treats them like that? Two, what is not said enough is how often black teachers get treated the same way as black students are. They are denied promotions and given the least desirable programs and bigger classes most of the time to keep the difficult children in check. They are also looked at more strictly during evaluation periods compared to their white colleagues. There was a survey that talked about why black teachers are walking away. Many felt that their competence was unfairly questioned, their contributions were less acknowledged, and their assertiveness was often perceived as anger or aggression. This makes them feel like second-class citizens within that school community. The thing is, this wasn't a rare occurrence. It was a common problem. Around 97% of all the teachers who participated in the survey went through some form of racial microaggression on a regular basis. It was part of the routine. EdSource did interviews with a couple of teachers to see what makes it difficult to recruit black teachers and make them stay. One source said, "What we know is that because black teachers are positioned, in particular black men teachers, are positioned as enforcers first and teachers second, that they're not always viewed by their white colleagues as having expertise as it relates to teaching and learning." Crystal Goff, a student population coordinator, stated that black educators are constantly under a lot of pressure to be perfect. They don't receive the same grace as their white colleagues. Goff explained, "It feels like we're coming up short. It feels like we're not meeting the criteria, and so we exit the field altogether. This is a problem for all races, not just black educators," Goff said. "I think that because we work for a system that sort of perpetuates that cycle of power and just white supremacy, we don't know how to support one another. You don't even realize that how you're interacting with each other is just not productive. Most of the time, black teachers feel dismissed, underappreciated, and undervalued. Many people automatically assume that they are not teachers because they are black. They think they are custodians or something like that. This type of bias is everywhere, and it is driving black teachers out. Now pair that with the pay teachers get, and you can see why a lot of black people pursue a career elsewhere. There is just a serious gap between teacher pay and other professions. The national average starting teacher salary is $38,600, while the average teacher salary is about $58,900. But you can earn a lot more than that with other more valued professions, like a psychiatrist, dentist, marketing manager, etc. Just as students would benefit from having a teacher there from a diverse background, school districts would also benefit from having teachers who bring a massive experience from different cultures to their school communities. According to Chino Valley's Walker, another educator who took part in the EdSource survey, showing up as our true and authentic selves is not always understood and appreciated. School districts should make implicit bias training mandatory for all employees, not just once, but on an annual basis. Collectively speaking, many teachers are burnt out. It is difficult when children carry so much and parents are carrying so much that wanting to be there to help all these children can be mentally and physically exhausting. There is also a lot of extra work that goes on after school hours. So not only do teachers have to work long hours, but they also spend extra time on budgeting, managing, and organizing other schools and extracurricular activities. Hardly anyone likes to go to school, but the most disciplined and wise children do it anyway because they and their parents realize it is important. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that students are saints. On the contrary, most teenagers are rude in general, and the new culture of being savage commonly promoted by black rappers has given a lot of young students the right to be extremely arrogant. It feeds into this criminal-like mentality. Students nowadays can get away with anything, including disrespecting their teachers and classmates. Many children, not all, are brought up with a strong sense of individualism, and they start to believe that no one is bigger than them. This gives them an ego boost, making them incapable of tolerating that anyone could hold authority over them. Their inflated ego makes them both super sensitive and insensitive towards others. Disrespectful students are popular. It feels good to rebel, and some teachers don't know how to deal with the disrespect. This is one of the many reasons we see teachers quitting in droves. Black children are disproportionately suspended or expelled when compared to white students. Black students are 4 times more likely to be suspended than white students. Schools with predominantly children of color get the least qualified teachers. Based on a recent study, Latino and Black students across the nation are disproportionately learning from uncertified and inexperienced teachers. Across the country, schools that serve mostly Black students have 5% more novice teachers than schools with fewer Black students. In some states, these gaps are even bigger. In Mississippi, for example, 1/4 of Black students went to schools with a higher number of novice teachers as opposed to 7% of non-Black students. In Louisiana, 1 in 3 Black students go to schools with high levels of inexperienced teachers. These findings suggest that the education system is failing Black children. Little changes have been made to try to keep these teachers from quitting. Novice teachers often quit because they receive little mentoring or training. So, at the end of the day, students are spending years learning from inexperienced educators, which can have a drastic impact later in their lives, especially when they want to pursue a specific career and go to college. According to Preston Jackson, a Black teacher at California Middle School, being a teacher is hard, but being a Black teacher is even harder. He said, 90%. You probably are going to be on a site where you are the only one there. And so you're not going to have someone there that has gone through a similar process, because being a Black teacher is a completely different situation. If he had had any Black mentors when he was starting out as a teacher, he would have had an easier time adapting to the environment. He would have received the support and guidance he desperately needed. Jackson said, they have to have someone they can have those types of tough conversations with to kind of help them work through the process until they get to a point where they are confident enough on their own feet where they can handle those things. We see a lot of novice teachers quitting because they get discouraged. Even if they love the kids and being a teacher, it just doesn't pay off. What makes matters worse is that in some schools, you will see children passing through metal detectors to even get to class. If a school doesn't have the resources for a full metal detector conveyor rig, then they would use wands. Police roaming the hallways finding excuses to arrest Black students. There are many difficult situations that teachers have to deal with, like when a kid bites them, throws a chair, or starts a fight. When someone pees on the floor or breaks public property. Yes, these are all things that can happen. So a lot of young teachers actually need emotional support and proper mentorship. Without either of those things, it is hard to work in this field. Most teachers find their own way to cope with the stress and burnout. Others try different strategies to preserve their mental health. Whatever the case may be, life as a teacher is never easy. Discipline is what guides the system, not academic achievement, turning challenges into opportunities. So, how do we solve this problem? A lot of things have to change. Yes, we do need more Black teachers in our schools. Representation matters, but it is not the only thing that counts. We need to inspire Black people who have a nurturing, creative, and adaptable spirit with a passion for learning to become teachers. But we also have to take into account how we treat teachers, not just we as parents, but also as colleagues. But there is more. Our current education system is flawed. Look at it this way. This is what cars look like today. This is what cars look like 100 years ago. This is how machines look today. This is how machines look like 100 years ago. This is what schools look like today. And this is how schools looked like 100 years ago. See where I'm going with this? Nothing has changed in the last 100 years. So how can our education system claim that it is preparing children for the future while it is still stuck in the past? Kids need a different schooling system to become decent members of society, one that can cater to the needs of our constantly changing working environment and AI. I mean, AI is already changing the world as we know it. It is destroying jobs and creating new ones. The old school system is just not equipped to prepare students for what is to come. How are they going to compete with AI when education doesn't teach them key skills? Skills that can help them secure their future, like creativity, AI literacy, critical thinking, emotional intelligence, data analytics, curiosity, problem solving, and so much more. So the system itself needs a complete overhaul. When it comes to diversity and changing the status quo, it will be highly beneficial if schools often invited famous Black speakers to come to their schools and make a speech. There are plenty of Black educators and motivational speakers out there who can help make a change. I'm talking about people like Mr. Ernest Krim III and Eric Thomas. These are the kind of people that should add value to normal education because what they say and know truly resonates with the community. Their experience can uplift students and set them on the right track. Back in 2016, Eric Thomas gave a speech at Vashon High School in St. Louis, and the students were left speechless. This speech was later posted online and got over 1.5 million views.
And you're gonna have the nerve to laugh and joke when teachers trying to teach you? You got the nerve to act a fool when somebody cares about you? You talking while I'm talking? Do you know if I go to a Jewish school, them kids quiet. If I go to a white school, them kids quiet. If I go to a Latino school, they quiet. The only kids that disrespect me is black kids. That's it. My own are the only ones that disrespect me. I walk in any other school, they like, there go E.T., we taking notes. I come home, you talking. You capping jokes. You think something funny. Look how we living. Ain't nothing funny. Ain't nothing funny, y'all.
Thomas told the entire high school his life story, how he dropped out of high school and was homeless for some time before he met a preacher and managed to flip his life upside down, in a good way. But as he was giving his speech, a bunch of students started talking to each other. They ignored him every time he said he had to be quiet. That's when Thomas gave them a lecture they would never forget. He spoke about how only black students, his own people, disrespect him. Everywhere he went, whether it was a white school or a Jewish school, the students were quiet. But then he came to a black high school and was met with blatant disrespect. This is heartbreaking, but also real. Thomas often gets paid $50,000 to $100,000 to make corporate speeches. But on this day, he wanted to speak to these high school students free of charge because he felt it was necessary to inspire the community and show these children a different path. Needless to say, it worked. He shut them up and challenged these students to ace the tests and start doing better in school. But he didn't leave it at that. He continued to educate the students by saying they were all descendants of slaves and they had a natural instinct to survive, to strive. Black people are survivors. What he said is true. We too often look for the enemy, and the enemy is us. But words without actions are meaningless. The black community, especially black students, needs to see more men like this every day who stand up and say what needs to be said. White people, there is hope for you too. You need to improve yourself, challenge yourself, and accept the fact that you are a part of these studies. No matter how much we want to deny that, this is real. There is an overwhelming amount of research that proves that black teachers are better for black students than white teachers. For black students, it is important to have a same-race teacher because it improves attendance, graduation rates, test scores, and behavioral outcomes. But the fact that a teacher's skin color matches that of their students doesn't give them any superpowers as an educator, but it gives them the ability to see the students in a way that would otherwise be tarnished by classic stereotypes. There are still people who cling to biases even to this day. They tend to make assumptions the second they see black boys. Conclusion. So we've come to the end of today's video. As you can see, black students can definitely benefit from diversified educators. Black teachers can connect with their students because of their shared racial identity. They can see their challenges and charms without the filters of minority. To be clear, a ton of non-black teachers are remarkable educators. They see their students for who they are and the potential they have. They treat their students equally. Even though we've come a long way since segregation and widespread discrimination, many children want to have at least one teacher of the same race. This gives them a sense of comfort and belonging, someone who would understand their insecurities, anxieties, greatness, and funny moments. So a black teacher isn't necessarily a magic formula for a better education system. They are just another addition that can help children excel in their schoolwork. They are there to guide the students on the right path to success. We need to take a closer look at what's been happening over the years and try to change our mindsets to create a better learning environment for our kids. We need to unlearn years of things that the mainstream media has taught us. We need to look at the black community as a whole, not just the criminal ghetto perceptions that have been drilled into our minds and shaped our beliefs. Let's be honest. If you don't have any kind of relationship with black folks other than what is being depicted on the news or movies, you're going to have a hard time understanding and really valuing the black community. The media likes to show black people as thugs, gangsters, thieves, and whatnot, while in reality, there is a whole black culture that is meant to be understood and explored. What we all need to do is read, learn, and improve. Breaching cultural gaps is critical to help propel our education forward, especially with a diverse population. This doesn't just apply to the black community, but everyone, as well as the Hispanic, Asian, and American Indian cultures. What do you guys think? Does including more black teachers can improve our education system? Do we need better diversity in schools? Do you disagree with any of the stuff mentioned here and believe there is a better way to change things? Be sure to share your thoughts in the comments. I would love to know what you think. As always, thank you for watching. See you next time.